Let's go.
If you smell what the gauntlet is cooking.
What's going on, everybody? I hope you smell what the Gauntlet is cooking on a Saturday night. I'm your host of the most, James Tatum, also known as Philly Jim and many other things. Here with Detroit Dom here to my right. Down here in the bottom left, we got the sports reporter without pay, a.k.a. Ray Lynn, filling in for Tyler Ingram, the honorary fourth horseman. Welcome to the show, Ray. And then we got Jay, going by the screen name Tyler Ingram's Tattoos. Shout out to Tyler. We love you, Tyler. Hope you get well soon and everything like that, bro. So hopefully you're watching tonight. But how you guys all doing tonight, man? Good to see you guys again.
Spectacular. Look at that view.
Look at that view. Look at Dom. Detroit Dom is coming at you from Florida.
Sunny into the warm Naples, weather. Florida. It was about 87 degrees today.
A little bit.
Beautiful.
I just noticed Jay's name, Tyler Ingram's Tattoos.
Shout out Tyler, the tattoo artist, the official tattoo artist.
Bringing his tattoos to life.
Sideline Sports.
Are you a tattoo artist?
Apparently, a lot of people ask him that all the time. But anyway, guys, I'm glad that we have a lot of good topics tonight. So our player of the week this week is actually going to be Reggie White, who is obviously one of the greatest defensive players of all time. I'm going to start with his college career first. So he went to the University of Tennessee. He was a unanimous All-American in 1983. He was also SEC Player of the Year that year. And the funny thing about that is the year before, he only registered 47 tackles and he only had 7 sacks. So he followed that up the next year, having a really big year. He set the school record with 15 sacks for Tennessee. And obviously he was the player of the year, like I just mentioned. So after that, he was actually drafted by the USFL, the Memphis Showboats. A lot of people don't remember this about Reggie White, but he was drafted by the USFL. He played with them for 2 years, had 23 and a half sacks with them. And then he came to the Philadelphia Eagles after USFL went under. Played 16 NFL seasons, 198 sacks, 33 forced fumbles. Set the Eagles' single season record with 21 sacks in the single season. He was 8-time first team All-Pro, 5-time second team, and he won 3 Defensive Player of the Years on top of winning the Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers. So honestly, to me, I think Reggie's the greatest defensive player of all time. His longevity is absolutely insane. For him to, with the Green Bay Packers, he was a first team All-Pro at 37 years old. That's just really unheard of, and that just goes to show you how long he was the best player at his position. So, Tom, start with you. What are your real thoughts about Reggie White, and what's the first thing that stands out to you when you look at his legendary career?
Like you said, definitely the longevity. Unfortunately, I had a front row seat, so to speak, watching him play at least twice, sometimes 3 times a year when we played them in the playoffs. And back then, in the 90s, our offensive line was better, the best I've seen in my life until what I expect our O-line to be next season. And he just killed us all the time. He's one of the, if not the guys that comes to my mind when you talk about defensive linemen, where you got a game plan for him. You have to make sure you know what he's going to do, what his tendencies are, and you got to put, maybe, I don't know, a handful of times, if that, were teams foolish enough to not put a double team on him. So, you got to put 2 hats on the guy or he's going to kill you. And even when you do put 2 hats on the guy, still going to kill you.
100%. So, Jay, what you got on Reggie White?
Man, so, and I was fortunate to, have grown up watching Reggie White. And being a Houston Texans fan, of course, I'm a J.J. Watt fan. And when he first started blowing up, people were like, that's the second coming of Reggie. Just the way he rushes the passer, the way he moves, how relentless he is, his strength, and to be in the same company as Reggie White, is honorary even within itself. But one Reggie White moment that stands out to me that I'd like to share with you all before Ray goes is NFL bus. You're familiar with the name Tony Mandarich.
I'm so glad you brought him up.
Now, Tony Mandarich, he was a huge guy. To the viewers out there that had never seen like a documentary on him, this dude was consuming like 4,000, 5,000 calories a day easy, always in the gym. Thing is he thought he could get over just on size alone. Well, they ended up facing the Eagles, and Reggie White took him to school. I want to say Mandarich allowed about maybe 5 sacks that day by himself. And it humbled him really quick. And just a guy like Reggie White, I mean, he wasn't over the top. He didn't trash talk or anything. He literally went out there and did his job. But he, in more words than one, was like, hey, welcome to the NFL, kid. This is how it is. So Reggie White was an amazing guy. And, of course, you mentioned his longevity and everything. He won with Green Bay. Little known fact, he did play one season in Carolina. But and I know it wasn't with the Eagles, Jimmy, but to see a player like that, get a ring, a man like that deserved it. So I was glad that he got that he won when he did. He absolutely deserved it. Go ahead, Ray.
Easily, man. Obviously, he's the greatest edge rusher in the history of the game. You start getting into greatest defender, across positions. You talking LT, Dion, stuff like that. But at his position, unquestionably the greatest to ever do it at his position. Like, it's unheard of for a guy to win Defensive Player of the Year at 37 years old. Like, that's unreal. You win Defensive Player of the Year. Like, you're the best defensive player in the league at 37 years old. And again, if he wouldn't have just said it, I wouldn't even realize. Imagine one of the greatest defensive players to ever play not being drafted by the NFL. Like, coming out of college, basically the NFL looked at him and said, you're not good enough. You talking about an I told you so moment. Like, a guy who wasn't good enough, went to the USFL, came in a supplemental draft, and turns out to be one of the greatest defenders to ever play the game. So not one team, not two teams, every single team passed on this guy multiple times. And he turned out to be one of the greats. So, I mean, you talk about an underdog story. Like, that's the underdog story of all stories. Reggie White's one of the GOATs, man. Minister of Defense. He had it like that.
Yeah.
And there was like 412 rounds in the draft back then too. So 32 teams.
He got that nickname.
30 or so teams passed on him that many times.
He got the nickname.
Go ahead.
He got the nickname of Minister of Defense because of his involvement with Christian ministries and everything like that. So he was a really nice guy. And there's a funny story about that because a lot of his coaches in high school, college, and everything used to say, "Oh, well, as good as he is, he doesn't really have that mean streak. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever be around." His family would always say he's kind of like the clown. He likes making people laugh, all that kind of stuff. So he didn't really have a mean streak. So the interesting thing is there was a story one of his teammates said. Seth Joyner, who played linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles back in the day, and Mike Golick, who used to do the Mike and Mike show on ESPN. So they said that there was this young offensive lineman that they were playing against. I don't know what team it was on. They didn't say. But they said that the lineman was talking trash to him and cussing at him. And, Reggie being the Christian guy that he is, he got really offended by that. And he was like, hey, man, don't cuss at me. I really don't like that. And then he kept doing it and he kept frustrating him. So he looked at him straight in the eye and he told him, Jesus is coming for you, or Jesus is on his way, or Jesus is coming. So on the next play, he picks up the offensive lineman by his shoulder pads, and he just straight up throws him into the direction of the quarterback, and the quarterback basically just falls down into the sack. That's probably, of all the stories I've heard about Reggie White, that is the greatest Reggie White story I've ever heard. That was absolutely hilarious and amazing.
When you said that, it reminded me of Jay. You've seen Death Wish 3.
Yeah.
Charles Bronson's like, "Do you believe in Jesus?"
Yep.
You're going to meet him.
Going to meet him.
and another thing, he's sitting right now all time second in sacks, right? I think Bruce played another 3 seasons than he did. They came in the league the same year, and Bruce has about 40 more games than him. So you're talking 3 full seasons worth of games that it took the guy to have 2 more sacks than him.
Right. Bruce Smith declined a little bit at the end of his career.
Yeah, and he did have 23.5 sacks with the Memphis Showboat. So if you count that, which they're not really going to, in his overall professional career, that's 220 plus sacks. So I definitely think he'd probably have the record had he, obviously been drafted by the NFL.
Plus,
JB just said, and that's the ultimate sign of respect. Put that comment back up that JB just said. He said, as a Giants fan, I love Reggie. He's amazing.
Yep. I feel the same way about Lawrence Taylor. I hate
right when you can say that you were a fan
credit,
or you loved watching a guy play in your own division that would probably come in and kill your teams twice in a row, like he did to us for all those years. Like, that's respect. And he wasn't just a great player, like we've all said, just a great guy.
But 20 years later, it's probably a lot easier to make that statement. He probably didn't like him very much while it was happening. But when you're a fan of
twice a year,
like Dom, 30 years from now, we'll tell our grandkids, man, Aaron Rodgers was great. We don't like it very much right now, though.
I've been an Aaron Rodgers fan for a good 10 years now.
We can't tell nobody that, though.
Well, to be fair, and being a Texans fan, I used to watch Peyton Manning slaughter my team twice a year, and I still found time to say that man is amazing.
Gotta respect greatness.
100%.
Except LeBron James.
Now here you go.
Okay, we're not talking
go
about
ahead, James.
Right now. We're not. I'm not gonna go into that. Staying with the Philadelphia Eagles, though. We saw JB's comment earlier about bringing up painful history. We're gonna bring up some painful history for him. Our Game of the Week segment is a brand new segment that we're going to be doing. We're going to be reviewing some older games, some not so older games, even though this game was all the way back in 2010. The Eagles and the Giants were both coming in at 9-4. It was a big game because whoever won this game was pretty much going to be in the driver's seat to win the NFC East at that point. So it started off being a real slow game, defensively. The two defenses were going at it. The Eagles' offense came out really sluggish. And then, all of a sudden, the Giants, they just got some opportunities to score. And then they go up into the half, and it's 24-3. So it's looking like the Giants are running away with this. To come out, the Eagles, they get a touchdown in the second half, 24-10. And then you get to the fourth quarter, and then the Giants get that next touchdown. It's 31-10. At that point, you're pretty much like 8 minutes left, 31-10. This game's over. And then all of a sudden, the Eagles just go down the field real quick. Brent Cello gets that touchdown. He gets loose. Jeremy Maclin had 2 touchdowns in this game, I believe. And then, Michael Vick was really making a lot of people are going to obviously talk about the punt return by Deshaun Jackson, but Michael Vick was making plays with his legs. Making plays with his arms as well. So, it was just an overall heroic performance by Michael Vick and the Eagles offense in the second half. And then next thing you know, they kick it right to Deshaun Jackson, and he takes it the distance. Mike Tomlin's face is not Mike Tomlin, but Tom Coughlin's face.
Tom Coughlin.
His face is red as a tomato. He's
redder than usual, which is saying something.
And Matt Dodge never played another snap in the NFL after that, which is the funniest, most ironic thing about the whole situation. But, it's funny. It's just really funny to me that he was more worried about ripping the punter for straight up kicking it to him. But what about all the awful arm tackle attempts that they were doing on Deshaun Jackson? Like that was really just some poor tackling. But when it came down to it, bad adjustments in the second half by the Giants, bad game management. It pretty much led to getting the Eagles back into this game, and it was one of the best comebacks that we've seen in NFL history.
Eric says, no. It was the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter that Philly woke the hell up.
Absolutely, they did.
That was that sticks out in my mind. There's one other one that for some reason I can't think of at the moment, but that was because I was watching that game live. That's the greatest regular season comeback I've ever seen. The only other one that sticks out is the Frank Reich game.
Yeah.
With the Bills, but that's that's tough. Like,
JB says it was horrible. There was nothing good about it. And we know why he says that. He's a Giants fan. So
yeah, I mean,
if I was on the other
sure,
end, if I was on the other end of that, yeah, I would have been miserable.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure we've all been on the sour end of a comeback. Actually, as a Lions fan, not so
Lions
much.
fans, well, no,
I've witnessed a lot more our team coming back, but I've also, as many comeback victories as I've seen twice as many comebacks where we fell just short. Like week 1 of this past season against San Francisco. I had turned that game off, and then somebody texted me and they're like, "Lions are in it," and I turned it on. And I literally saw the last play, the incomplete pass, and I was like, "Well."
No, you know what? As Lions, I don't want to get away from the game. We're on the receiving end of some comebacks too. The Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary play this year, Lamar Jackson on 4th and 20 or something like that. Like, and then they kick a 65-yarder. Tucker's done that to us twice, as a matter of fact.
Remember the Sunday night game?
Yeah,
I had like 20 people in my house watching that game, and it was like the air went out of the room.
And Dom, if you talking about comeback and then coming short, the Golden Tate play.
Oh, the 10-second runoff?
The 10-second runoff. Oh, my God. We know it all. Go check my YouTube video on that. But as far as this game, man, could you imagine this game happened in the playoffs? If this game happened in the playoffs, it will be spoken about as the greatest game ever. Like, it was that good of a game. And 90% of people missed it because at the beginning of the fourth quarter, most people turned their TVs off. 31-10, you're not like at 31-10, you're like, oh, the game is over. And for whatever reason, I recall watching this game. I remember the 65-yard touchdown, and it's like, oh, they got a chance. And then the way it ended, that's epic, man. That is epic, the way it ended. Like, and as a Philly fan, I'm quite sure you called. This was 2010, so social media wasn't as prominent as it is now. But could you imagine if that happened now? Oh, man, you would be on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
Honestly, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That was my favorite Eagles game when I'm rewatching different Eagles games other than the Super Bowl. It's probably my second favorite game to rewatch, and my third favorite is probably against the Cowboys in the year before when they absolutely slaughtered them 44-6 to get
Eric, you're not wrong. Eric,
Yeah,
you're not wrong. There have been games where we've been winning, and as soon as I've turned it on, we've, taken the tank, and vice versa. Games where we've been losing, and I don't turn it on, and then we come back and win. I've been bad luck at times. I have a pretty good win-loss record as far as games I've attended in person, though. Like I've only all the Lions games I've been to, and as bad as we've been for large portions of the 90s and 2000s, I've seen probably, I'd say my win percentage is like 600 or above, and that's pretty good for the Lions. I mean, imagine if we had a 600 winning percentage my whole life for these last 5 years.
Go to more games.
I don't like going to home games anymore. It's not really that much fun. It's a pain in the butt to do anything, to go get a drink, to get some food, go to the bathroom, to smoke a cigarette.
I need you to sacrifice and take one for the team. If our winning percentage with you in the building is 600, I need you to go to more games, sir. That's what I need from you.
You got to get this man season tickets.
Fair enough. And that's the other thing.
You got to make a business decision.
I've been begging my buddies for years to go in on season tickets. Like, look, we'll go in like 4 ways. Everyone gets 2 games. We'll raffle off the first game. If it's me personally, I'm taking the Thanksgiving tickets, selling those, and then going to the other game for free. But I like going to road games more. Honestly, it's more fun.
You know what's
like,
crazy?
I'd much rather come to Philadelphia and go to a game and hang out for the weekend with James. And if we get slaughtered, like, at least I got to see one of my friends and do some other stuff. You know what I mean?
Tend to live, yeah.
Dom, how many road games have you been to, Dom?
I've been to one in Chicago. I've been to one in Cleveland. Couple in Cleveland. I've been to one in Cincinnati.
Here's a really weird thing that I found out. I live in North Carolina, and a couple years ago for my birthday, my wife gets me tickets. They're playing on my birthday, September 15th, right? I go to this Panthers game, and as I'm walking up to the stadium, I see all this blue that I think is Carolina fans. Lo and behold, our fans travel. Like, that stadium had to be about 60-40. And I'm like, in North Carolina?
Back in like 2004, when I lived down here, I went up to Atlanta to visit my dad, and I went to a Lions game, and I almost got my ass kicked in the bathroom because we were whooping on them. So I just walked into the bathroom, loud and proud, like scoreboard, and then all of a sudden I'm surrounded by large, angry Falcons fans.
They're one of the weakest fan bases because I also went to a game when the Eagles were down there, and Eagles fans travel well anywhere, but I just think people down there just really don't care. They just don't represent their team like you see.
I mean, it's the fail cans.
Even if it's not a true sports town.
Even if you were born and raised in Atlanta, would you want to be loud and proud about being a fail Cants fan? I wouldn't.
But you got to think about it.
The Dirty Birds, bro. The Dirty Birds were lit.
But I think James is the youngest person on here, right? But for the other three of us, right? We grew up, we watched all of the franchises come here to North Carolina. Like the Charlotte Hornets came in the early 90s.
Yep.
The Panthers in 94, 95, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they came in 94, 95. Them and Jacksonville came at the same time.
In Jacksonville,
mm-hmm. So
then the Bobcats.
Like, a lot of the huge fan bases that have had years. A lot of people in Carolina had to find teams outside of Carolina because they didn't have franchises for years. So
they were probably Falcons and Braves fans.
Yeah, in 1991 there was no pro sports in Carolina.
None. That was like, if you think about it,
it is really big for like Duke in North Carolina, though.
Yeah, my brother lives in Durham, and he's not a college basketball fan at all. He's not really a sports fan at all. He's a weirdo.
If you've never done it, make it a bucket list. Go to a Duke, North Carolina game. It's epic. It's like
you've been to one,
man. Listen, the atmosphere, like the floor is shaking. It's unreal. It is unreal, man. And these people down here, they take that so serious. Like the Duke, North Carolina rivalry. Oh, it's serious down there.
Oh yeah,
it is.
Serious. Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure it's another world to like actually witness it in person.
It is. So I don't know how we got off track, but the game at hand, if y'all have ever heard me talk about quarterbacks and how they're judged, this game is another perfect example of that, right? Where we say, well, he lost the game. Imagine throwing for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns and having a 31-10 lead, and then your team blows the game. Like Eli Manning didn't go out and give up them points for them. Like he didn't punch that ball.
He sure did.
He put his team in position in the fourth quarter with a 31-10 lead. And they blew it, and all the record books is gonna say Eli Manning got.
That's a loss.
Yeah,
the turning point of the game was when the Eagles got an onside kick. That was what really put it in the Eagles' hands. So all right, we score right here, we got this.
Well, I actually was talking to JB just last night, and we had a discussion of Eli Manning being a Hall of Famer, and I said, okay, Eli may have a 500 record as a starter, but you got to take into account how many of those L's came when he had the lead and the defense let him down, just like Ray said.
Well, how many of those W's came when he was trash and the defense did their job as well?
It could go both ways. Absolutely, it could.
He won.
It's
two
some of
Super
both
Bowls like that.
Yeah. My thoughts on the game, though. I'll go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna tell James. For me, that huge touchdown at the beginning of the fourth quarter, right after New York scores. And the response was that fast. New York scores to go up 31-10.
Yep.
And Vic comes back and hits Selleck on a 65 yard or something like that. You was kind of like, they might still, 31-17 ain't the worst thing in the world.
No, there's plenty of time at that point.
So when they scored that fast, you felt like this game not over.
Right. It could have been a nail in the coffin, but it was a like you said, a quick turnaround, and that's shift of momentum. Like, When you think you're dead and then you go back and score and you're like, hold on, it's only a 2-score game.
And Vic was phenomenal that game with his arm, with his feet. I think he rushed for 130. So
Michael Vick had an outstanding year in 2010 when
that's a great point, JB.
Kevin Cobb opened up this season as a starter. He got hurt, and Vic he pretty much played really well.
Take over,
I haven't even thought about him in like a decade.
Yeah, and that's that season. Vic had his best year as a passer. So, but when he was in Atlanta, he wasn't really good. Like,
not considered much of a passer.
I'm not saying he definitely still wasn't a great passer, but it was a different version of Michael Vick that we saw.
I was gonna bring that up with my point right here. This is why I am a fan of Michael Vick 2.0 versus the first version. Because with Michael Vick with the Eagles, he actually learned how to play quarterback. He actually learned how to read a defense. He actually learned how to, and not, granted, he was electrifying running, but he learned how to go through his reads, go through his options. You know but as far as the game and everything, and I know you mentioned the whole Matt Dodge situation, and so I mean, a lot of people would say, well, that's unfair because of that he's not in the league anymore, but also understand because the coach told you do not kick it to him, and he proceeds to kick a line drive to Deshaun. You failed an open book test. That's why you're not in the league.
True, but I mean, don't you have to put at least a small amount of faith in your teammates? There's 10 other guys out there. Somebody better get some hands on them, at least to slow them down. And then, you can't be expected as a punter to tackle a guy.
But it began with don't kick it to him.
You're right.
Man, somebody go make a tackle. We gonna blame the punt, like the kicker. Somebody go make a tackle. Like just that simple. Go tackle.
Yeah, you're on special teams. So probably 7 of those 10 other guys. Mm-hmm. You had one job.
I'll say that's the only job in the world.
That's all you do is play special teams.
Yeah,
go make a tackle
to do that job.
Yes. So, but there's also a go ahead, Rick.
No, I just want to know how long we supposed to wait on Vic 2.0 to learn how to throw the ball. Because I know who you're talking about. So how long we supposed to wait on that? He's showing.
He's got it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. This is awesome. Hey, he's standing there waiting on it.
This is for you, Jake. This is for you, JB.
Oh,
love you guys.
James, can you please rewind it? Please rewind it. Like what Deshaun Jackson did in that moment was almost like, please punt it to me. I dare you.
Yeah, I dare you.
Deshaun Jackson's one of those cockiest players of all time.
What I said. Look at him. He's like, I know they're going to kick it to me. They're going to be dumb and kick it to me.
That man said, come on. I dare you. I dare you.
Deshaun was like, I can't believe he kicked it to me. I'm about to make him pay.
I don't know why he would do that.
When you talk about the greatest return men of all time, his name probably doesn't get mentioned, but this may be the greatest return of all time because of the situation and the fact that he's back there like, come on, I dare you, kick it to me, and then did it.
And then he did it.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wait, is this that return?
It's that
he tried to angle it.
And look, I can't believe they
picks it up. Bad arm tackle, bad bad tackle. Great block there.
And I'm out.
Turn around on him.
Yep.
Oh my God.
He waited for all the seconds to go off.
And listen, that was that's another thing. That was such a smart play.
That's the only time he did that where it worked out properly. Like that time he wasn't just showboating.
Where he dropped it.
Yeah, he was showboating, but he was also running the time off the clock.
You know what? I was watching a game last night. Did I watch the Lakers and Clippers last night?
I
didn't see it.
I watched it.
Lakers Clippers game last night. Clippers have almost an 8-second violation. They call a foul. Lakers challenge it. It goes in their favor. So now Clippers have 2 seconds to get the ball across. And Reggie Jackson doesn't get it across. And the Lakers almost won. And then he gets it back and like ices the game. And it's like he went from GOAT to hero that fast. Deshaun Jackson almost dropped that. Like if he drops it and they tackle him, he blows.
Could have been a fumble,
game, quote unquote, right? Yeah, it could have been numerous things. Muffs it and then picks it up and turns nothing into something a la Barry Sanders, right? That was amazing, man. That's just if you love sports, if you don't have a vested interest, like everybody but Giants fans, you have to love that play. Everybody but Giants.
Oh, you mean Barry for 1, Barry for -3, Barry for 60 touchdown?
Yes.
That was what I remember all growing up. That was what made me love football.
Man,
although still, that O-line is a lot more legitimate than people remember. Like there was all pros on that O-line.
Hey, who?
Jerry Ball.
Let's not do that. So who is Joe H in the comments?
That's JB.
That's JB.
Oh, that's the boss. Show that highlight one more time for him.
JB loves it, man. He loves it. There was no reason to show this horrible. I used to love it, so now I'm calling Sideline Sports. He's calling Sideline Sports. He's going to call the commissioner.
If he was guest starring or taking over, he'd be throwing the out of order flag.
Ray Lynn out here making JB spill his yak.
Oh man.
Office hours are 8 to 4, Mr. Ellis. If you're unhappy with the service, you can call.
Oh
boy.
Hey man, hey, listen, shout out. The whole crew is down there in the comments. Eric, John, and JB.
Shout out to you guys, man. Thank you guys for supporting the show.
Thanks for tuning in.
We have a public service announcement, though, from Mr. J. Nelson.
All right.
Take it away.
So,
what is that time?
So this all been brought to you by the Score No Score app. You can download it in the Google Play Store or whatever Android calls it nowadays, and also in the Apple Store. But you can download it, and basically what you can do is you can bet during games. Right now, they have just football and baseball. I would like to think they're going to add basketball sometime soon, but
that would be lit.
Yeah, exactly. And but you go on there and you bet with coins and whatnot, and you literally bet on the next play, not necessarily the entire game. So, well, the next play, I think such and such gets a base hit, or such and such is gonna throw an interception or something like that. But it's really great. It's really fun. And I'm alluding to what Tyler said a couple episodes ago. Even in a boring game, you can still make it fun. So definitely go to the Apple Store or Android store and download the Score No Score app. It's awesome. It's hot. It's the new wave.
Yeah, it makes games that you wouldn't necessarily want to watch be worthwhile. It's basically like new school fantasy football.
Jay, I can just about guarantee you nobody will be betting on the next base hit anytime soon.
I was going to say this may force them sooner than later to bring basketball into the fold, because for right now there is no baseball. Yeah. I mean, I should be up the street right now at a Fort Myers, or not even, watching the Cardinals play in Fort Myers. I can't talk. It's just up the road. I mean, there's 4, 5, 6 different camps within a half hour of me right now. I was really hoping to watch some spring baseball somewhere, but no. It's all right. The season's 11 months long. They'll still fit in 100 games.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking somewhere along them. They might play half a season. But if and when they do, download Score No Score anyway. But when that happens, you can play baseball.
Absolutely. So we're actually going to move on to our next segment, talking about some stuff that is going on around the NFL, trade rumors, and everything like that. We're going to start with some recent reports that have come out that have said that the Carolina Panthers are very much open to a trade for Christian McCaffrey. So, Christian has been a star in the league. He's been electrifying as a runner and a receiver out of the backfield. He's been a real weapon, but there's just been some issues the last couple of years. Really just hasn't been able to stay on the field for the Panthers. So if you're a team that's, taking a look at a guy like Christian McCaffrey, what teams do you guys think are the best fit for Christian McCaffrey?
That's a good question.
I can jump right in. First off, NFL trades are weird. It's not like the NBA where you look at this player and that works. Like, one of the biggest trades I can recall was like Clinton Portis for Champ Bailey. It's like, who saw that coming, right? Like, you just didn't see it coming. It just came out of nowhere. So when you look at fit, like, I don't even really factor in assets and who they can get back. It'll probably be some second and third and fourth round picks, right? He has to go to a team that can withstand losing him, right? A team that like in Carolina, he's everything. He's the entire offense, right? And I know the rich get richer, but I immediately look at teams like Buffalo, whose running back situation has been you just with what Moss and Singletary, you don't look at either one of those guys as a lead back, right? A team
Not quite.
But they're already
they get a lot of yards per carry. They're too Josh Allen dependent.
Yeah,
right. So you bring in we talking about fit, right? I'm looking at a team that doesn't have a legit number one back that even without McCaffrey, that team is very good already, right?
Houston.
You look at Buffalo, you look at Kansas City, right? Teams like that don't have a back that you look at as a star and you go, with or without him, they'd be good. But adding him would give them so much more firepower. So that, I mean, obviously salary and all of that come into play. But those are the teams that kind of jump out at me that are very good and don't have a very good running back. And they'll be okay with his injury issues. Like if he goes out, they'll still be fine. But he can't go anywhere that needs him to be what he is now, because it's clearly shown that he can't handle that.
The usage.
No. Yeah, he can't handle that. So, like Detroit, don't even get in that mix. We don't want no parts of that. Detroit, we don't make that call. Don't get on the phone.
Don't need them. God forbid what it would cost. I'm still looking at I don't think that it'll happen. I still think I think Houston, it would bring down the asking price for Deshaun Watson. Instead of having to give up, your next 370 first-round picks, you give them someone like McCaffrey, and maybe it only costs you 2 or 3, or 2 and then a second next year. But to Raylan's point, like, they would have to use him as much as possible. Now that you bring that caveat into it, it kind of takes a lot of teams like that out of the mix because, as you said, he's proven he can't handle that. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, though, what running back can handle that sort of high usage nowadays? You can't.
I think I know the perfect place for Christian McCaffrey, and that's with the San Francisco 49ers. You have a guy like Elijah Mitchell, who was really playing good. So, I mean, you're not really asking McCaffrey to be the lead back. Elijah Mitchell has already shown that he can show up and produce. And then in that offensive scheme with Kyle Shanahan, a guy like Christian McCaffrey is really going to help open that offense up. You already have George Kittle. You have Deebo Samuel. Think about a guy that's a threat as a runner and a receiver. I like Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco a lot. I think it's a great fit.
Dom, to your point, you said that he may be a great fit in Houston, but remember what Ray said, and I agree. We have to be able to lose him and still be good. We ain't even good, period. So that's why that would be a bad fit.
You couldn't lean on him.
We could.
You could for about 6 games, and then you get hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely don't draft him in the first round in fantasy.
That's the thing, though. Like, when you pay a guy that much, you should be able to lean on him, and you can't. But like I said, what running back can you lean on? Everyone before this year, and I called it, as you all remember, I said, Derrick Henry's going to get hurt. And then there it was. This year, sorry, Jonathan Taylor, you're next, buddy.
So question, so we're talking about, right, his body being able to withstand the kind of workload that Carolina has put on him, right? And we've also seen that in that same division. Nobody's talking about it. Kamara hasn't been as good since Ingram left. Like when they were doing the dual-headed back, Kamara was very good, right? If more teams looked at a situation like that, or like what Cleveland has over there, where you got Nick Chubb and you got Kareem Hunt. So if we start looking at teams like that have a back in place, right, and you go, we're going to add this guy to it. Green Bay started doing that towards the end of the year with Jones and Dillon, right? Who else kind of has 2 backs that they utilize both of them? There's a few teams that's doing that. We saw it with Zeke and Pollard this year, where you're utilizing both of those backs. So if he can go somewhere that has a back,
Detroit would have if Jamal Williams would have stayed healthy. That was definitely their plan.
Eagles did utilize Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott.
But a lot of those situations were back committee because it just was.
Yeah.
Right. Even in Minnesota with Cook and Madison, it's more so Cook is the guy, and then if he's not healthy or something, you got Madison.
Yeah, I was going to say,
a lot of these situations,
can't stay healthy either.
A lot of these situations, I'm talking where you bring a guy, because if you bring McCaffrey in, somebody said earlier, I don't know who it was, said, well, he doesn't have to be the number 1 back. You don't go get a Christian McCaffrey for him to not be the number 1 back, right? Like you don't bring him in to be because it's going to cost you something. I don't know what it's going to cost you. So again, I think it has to be a team that's like a fringe contender.
I hear you.
Right?
Buffalo, that you said, that makes a lot of sense.
I love San Francisco, like I said.
But you forget, they've got Raheem Mostert coming back.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have even seen Elijah Mitchell like that,
James,
but Mostert got hurt.
I think it's I just think it makes a lot of sense, and it just sounds like it would work.
James, and it makes a whole lot of sense considering the second half of the season, their best running back was a wide receiver. So it makes a lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. Jay, I don't know why you said
off of Deebo as well. Yeah,
because if you put him in Houston, right? The coach recently Lovie Smith came out with this fake admiration for Davis Mills, right? If I'm a coach and we're playing the Houston Texans, and you have Davis Mills back there and Christian McCaffrey, we stacking 8 in the box every play, every game. Period.
Like is the highest for a running back in 2022, almost $19 million. Yeah, and the Dallas Cowboys, their cap situation is really, really tight with Dak's contract and Zeke's contract and Cooper.
Amari Cooper.
You're talking about releasing him.
Some of those linemen, DeMarcus Lawrence.
CD Lamb.
I think they're still paying out Jalen Smith.
And listen, and if you're the Cowboys, you have to be looking at here in a couple of years, we're gonna have to pay Parsons. We're gonna have to pay CD.
Yep.
I hope they don't. I hope they can afford him. I hope
you gotta pay Lamb.
Hey, I want him gone. I want him
He's
out
like,
of
you
the
gotta pay Parsons. James like, no, you don't.
Yeah, we can pay him, or any teams that are not in the NFC East can.
JB's in the comments. He was just kind of, I don't know if he said that before or after me. He said Buffalo needs to get a number one back. No. And that's kind of where I went with it. Like I said, you look at Buffalo, like Josh Allen's clearly elevated to that top tier of quarterbacks. He's up there. Like the gap between him and Mahomes isn't that great. Again, that's another game where that man played great and lost. He had to stand there and lost because of a coin flip. It wasn't his fault they lost, right?
Thank you for saying that.
You add a back into what they have going on over there. Because Moss and Singletary ain't it. Like they fill a void in the meantime.
Yeah, they're warm sacks of fluid that get carries.
Neither one of them ever done back.
Would you rather trade, if you're trading for one of these players, you're trading for Saquon or you're trading for Christian McCaffrey?
Oh,
like gun to my head, I gotta pick one. I'm going Saquon because he's a year or two younger, and his injury history isn't as bad.
But it is as bad. It is worse, as a matter of fact. We've at least seen Christian McCaffrey hold up for a whole. Like we saw him play a season and be elite, right? We still waiting on it from Saquon. Like Saquon was taken in the draft, and it was he's the next
second on the second pick.
And like I think his rookie year, he might have played 16. And he was okay. And the thing nobody's talking about, he played 13 games last year. He just wasn't very good in those games because he was nursing injuries the whole time. So either he's not playing, and when he is playing, he's nursing injuries, and then the Giants aren't really good. I know James glad to hear that, right?
JB said trade Barkley to Buffalo, please.
No, man. If I had to pick between the two, it would definitely be McCaffrey. We seen McCaffrey perform at an MVP level, right? Like the team just wasn't very good, but we've seen him. I think he might have led the league in all-purpose yards that year. That he was really, really good. We've yet to see Saquon the potential. Yeah. We haven't seen it come to fruition yet. So
I feel like Saquon's the type of player that could go to another team and just have, maybe a change of scenery would be the best thing for him. You know,
it might be. I know the first couple of years Saquon did hit 1,000, but it hadn't been right since. So that's actually a hard pick. I'll probably
their O-line is pretty trash too.
No, their whole team is trash.
They took an O-lineman pretty high that one year when everyone else did, and they got the crappy. Who was it? Andrew Thomas from Georgia.
They took Daniel Jones when no one was going to take him.
I'm all for all the Daniel Jones slander. I turned my back on Daniel Jones.
Hey, they got Kadarius Toney.
They got Kenny Galladay too.
Yeah, their receiving core is really loaded. So the next thing, guys, I want to go over before we go to Sports Moron. Mr. Carson Wentz with the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis Colts are reportedly straight up done with him, and they're completely focused on getting a new quarterback. They don't know who that quarterback's going to be. They don't know which ones they want to take a look at. But, I think it speaks volumes that after one season, the Colts are just done, and they're just trying to rip the Band-Aid off. You give up a first-round pick. You give up a first-round pick for Carson Wentz, and in the end of that season against the Raiders and definitely against the Jaguars, where you really needed to win one of those two games just to get into the playoffs, you can't get the job done. And Carson Wentz, when the pressure was on him, Jonathan Taylor was neutralized. He pretty much folded a lot like he did in Philadelphia. And all the narratives that Frank Reich was going to fix him and he's going to come back to being an MVP type of quarterback turned out to be not true. The Colts realize this. They're ripping the Band-Aid off. It will cost them $15 million in dead money, but with the amount of cap space that they have for this year, it doesn't really affect them that much. So I don't know what quarterbacks you guys think the Colts are going to go after. They have said that they're high on Russell Wilson, but without them having a first rounder for this year, unless they wanted to give up all their future picks for a couple of years with Russell, I'm not sure if that's what they're going to be able to do, but they are done with Carson Wentz. So am I surprised? No, because I basically told you guys that this was going to happen. I did. I mean, I said it since day one that
you did.
This experiment is not going to be what anyone thinks it is, and it wasn't.
See, but the whole thing about it is, and it's like you said. I mean, I didn't. Could they have beat the Raiders? Yes. Should they have beat Jacksonville? Absolutely. But I will remind you, the Colts haven't beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville like this century.
Yeah,
it's been 2014. As bad as the Jags have been, they've got. It's like the Dolphins used to have the Patriots number at home. But if they go into Jacksonville and win that game or beat the Raiders the week before, then they make the playoffs, and it doesn't look nearly as bad. I mean, I think pretty much all of us, well, maybe James didn't because of his Carson Wentz hate, but I think the rest of us probably had the Colts in the playoffs, did we not?
Yeah, we did.
So they win that one game, they're in the playoffs, and his numbers weren't bad at all, like 63% completion percentage, 3,500 yards.
To me, it's not about the numbers. It's about the eye test. The numbers for Carson Wentz in his career has usually looked pretty decent. But
yeah, you're right.
When it matters, he folds. He just always does.
You can't
in a high pressure situation.
You can't not beat the Jaguars. The
exactly.
And Jaguars.
Right here, if he had lost to two contenders, we're probably not having this conversation. But because he should have beaten the Raiders, and up and down that was really from John Gruden. Because he lost to the Jags, a reeling team from Urban Meyer. Like, really, you couldn't? I don't care that
the
you
thing
went
was,
7-7.
If John
Gruden, you won this many games. When it comes time, you can't. We need you to get it done against, the teams.
So
you losing the junior squads? Come on now. No, that's it.
Hold on.
If John Gruden was still the coach, they would have beat him because John Gruden is notorious for his November and December swoons. But different story for different day. Go ahead, Rev.
So I think we're partially being hypocritical, but in this case, it's warranted, right? Because we were just talking earlier about quarterbacks not deserving all the blame for losses. And Josh Allen played great but lost, and this guy played great but lost, and Jimmy G played horrible and won, right? So it's not all on the quarterback when you lose. But in this particular instance, right? If I kept talking all year, Jonathan Taylor for MVP, because I don't know the numbers right offhand now, but it was something crazy like they were like 10-1,
1,800 yards.
No, but I mean their record
when he rushed for over 100
yards. It was like 10-1, right?
That's any team.
All the losses, he was sub 100. So you get into this last game, you need to get into the playoffs, and you can't get your guy going. And it's like, this is the one time we need you to come through, right? They're stacking 8. They're not going to let him get going. I'm quite sure they've read the scouting reports. Quite sure they know those same numbers. Ray Lynn's a nobody. He's a sports reporter out pacing in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And he knows that we win when Jonathan Taylor gets 100. So I'm pretty sure the Jaguar staff knew it too. So let's not let Jonathan Taylor get going. At that moment, you need Carson Wentz to step up and make plays, and he couldn't get it done. I will say two things about this situation. One, Nick Foles ruined Carson Wentz's career. Let's start there. He ruined his career. He went and took his Super Bowl, and he ain't been the same since, right? Secondly,
he destroyed his confidence.
It's like JB saying no mental fortitude. He lost his mental fortitude 4 years ago.
Yeah,
facts,
and never regained it.
And I will say this about the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, they didn't expect Luck to retire abruptly, just randomly before the season, right? But they've been a mess. You cannot win this way. You can't keep swapping. You know, the last time the Indianapolis Colts had the same quarterback for 2 years in a row was 2016, and we in 2022. Like, it's been revolving quarterbacks ever since then. Luck started 1 year, then he was hurt, and it was Brissett. Then it was Luck again, then it was Brissett again, and then it was Rivers, and then it was Wentz. Like, you can't build any continuity just changing the quarterback every year. This is like the Lions when we fire coaches every 3 years. You can't win this way. Like, you can't win this way. Right. So I don't know what's going on with the Colts. Like, I don't know if they think they're going to find the next Manning, but I think last year should have taught them a very valuable lesson. They can rebrand their entire team. They can have a whole new identity and build it around the run game and the defense. Jonathan Taylor is that good. He just showed you last year. You get me going, we can win games. Carson Wentz don't have to be special. He can Jimmy G it all the way to playoff success. But
yeah, because the Colts defense is really good too.
But they're used to. They have a standard set now. They're used to having a phenomenal quarterback. That's how they've always had their success.
Yeah, it's their bread and butter.
They don't know how to act now.
And Naheem Hines is no sleeper neither. So they got him with Jonathan Taylor. Wentz really should
Carson
have
Wentz
felt
is
like.
still making.
The Lions are kind of in the same boat, but we're also moving our personnel.
He's making a decently high salary, so I mean, these situations are going to come up. It might not be every week, but there's going to be some times where you're going to have to just go out and make that one or two plays that's going to win you the game, and that's not what he was able to do. So I think that was the biggest reason for the Colts kind of falling apart at the end of the season and not being able to keep that last wild card spot.
It is very possible that one day we're going to look back and we're going to remember the draft of Carson Wentz and Jared Goff and how much hype it was surrounding them. And we're going to remember it like Tim Couch and Ryan Leaf. That's what we're going to think of those two guys 20 years from now is Tim Couch and Ryan Leaf.
Leaf and Peyton Manning were the same year. Couch was
the year before.
A year after.
Okay.
Year before, year after.
But those two guys,
well,
Couch and Leaf, had so much hype surrounding them.
Never take a football player from a basketball school.
Daniel Jones.
You hear that, Giants?
Mitchell Trubisky.
Eric
You
Ebron.
hear that? Yeah.
James, I don't think anybody answered your question. So who do the Colts go after?
Who do they go after?
Who makes sense?
I think that's why you keep Carson. I mean, they're not going to apparently, but I would keep Carson Wentz around for one more year simply for a lack of other viable candidates.
What do you guys think was that? What's the asking price for Russell Wilson?
More than they can afford.
You're the Colts. You call Seattle. We want Russ. What is Seattle's response to that? Do they just straight up hang up the phone, or is it 3 first rounders, 2 first rounders, couple first and a player? Like, what are you guys thinking there?
It starts off they hang up the phone, then they immediately call back and they're like, "How bad do you want him?" It's going to be like Tom Cruise in Jerry Maguire. It's going to cost you. Now it's going to cost you.
I can be about certain they're going to ask for one of the big names on the Colts, and that's why I don't think that it will go down.
Darius Leonard and 2 first-round picks.
That's the thing, and any of these quarterbacks that might be on the market, that's how you bring the asking price down. But it's like, are you willing to part with
Aaron Rodgers and Indy?
Because whoever wants Deshaun Watson, assuming he gets traded or ever plays another down in the NFL, whoever trades for him, if they're smart, they give them a player. And it's like Ray. Have you heard about the Lions? It's not going to happen, but the rumored deal of the number 2 pick for the number 11 pick and Chase Young.
Sound like something we would do.
I'm about that action. That's a
proven
defensive.
I'll say this much, James. If the Colts make any calls and they say we want X, Y, and Z and asking prices, whatever, as long as it don't involve Jonathan Taylor, Darius Leonard, or Quentin Nelson,
yep,
we can talk. Them 3 untouchable. Everybody else touchable.
But see,
the fact that they don't have that first round pick hurts a lot, though.
When I was talking
about what about Aaron Rodgers? Would you give up Darius Leonard and a couple first rounds for Aaron Rodgers?
As long as it's not Quentin Nelson.
As long as it's not Quentin Nelson.
Well, here's the problem with that, Jay. And there's a problem with that. Jonathan Taylor is young, and you would have to be in win right now mode to go get Aaron Rodgers, right? You'd have to think you have what it takes to win right now because you're mortgaging your future for right now. And I don't know.
Aaron Rodgers has absolutely no business in the AFC. None. There's just too many other good teams, too many other good quarterbacks. If he really wants to win another Super Bowl,
are you saying that there's a lot? Are you trying to tell me that there's a lot of quarterbacks that are better than Aaron Rodgers in the AFC? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, I'm just saying there's too many other ones that are almost as good.
I would say this.
His path to the Super Bowl in the NFC
should be the other way around. Like they're chasing him. He's not chasing them.
Right. I'm just saying, but you also have to think about your team winning.
Aaron Rodgers can't compete with these guys because he can't.
I'm not saying that he can. I'm just saying when you get traded to somewhere as a player, you got to look at, did my team win the trade? And that's why
the AFC South is terrible. It's a terrible division. They would
run
away with it.
It is.
I would say this though, James. So if we do this thing where quarterbacks, like they don't really defend each other, but we go this quarterback versus this quarterback. If you're in the NFC, Breeze retired 2 years ago. Brady just retired. He gone. Stafford's good. Russell Wilson wants out. You look around. You're Aaron Rodgers.
The NFC South, the NFC is worse. But
but if you go over to that AFC, right? and you get to the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl, you're going to have contended
Mahomes,
with all
Josh
them
Allen,
young,
Joe
talented
Burrow. I
boys.
got it.
Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about one just in the AFC West.
Difficult, but
it would serve them better to stay in the NFC.
Oh, boy.
Listen, somebody tell JB don't do that.
JB, you're out of order.
Don't do that.
Here we go.
Don't do that.
There are two Detroit Rams fans on this panel. You will not speak ill of Matthew Stafford.
JB, I got to come see you now.
Okay, guys, so it's time for
Pick me up on the way.
It's time for our favorite
Just
part of the
Detroit,
show.
we'll drive to Chicago.
It's time for our favorite part of the show. Sports morons of the week. And man, there's a lot of good choices this week. I'm going to start with talking a little bit of basketball. Mr. Charles Oakley was on some podcast saying that he thinks that the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo would be a bench player in his era.
I hate these.
I'm speechless, but I'm not surprised. Just because you see a lot of these old heads that played in the 80s.
He's disgusted.
The 80s, the 90s saying, well, so-and-so wouldn't make it. Like LeBron wouldn't make it. Giannis wouldn't make it. Kawhi. Any of these great players that are in the league right now. Yet, there's a lot of guys that played in that era who were basically like substitute. Now, I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. Substitute teachers, plumbers and stuff were suiting up. Yet you think a guy that's, over 7 feet tall or close to 7 feet tall, got freak athletic ability, court vision, good passer, good rebounder, scorer, everything like that. You think that Giannis would not be a top 5 player of that era, let alone
here's my response to what Charles Oakley said.
You think he wouldn't even start in that era?
Here's what I can say to Charles Oakley. Guess what? You wouldn't make it in this era, and that is even less in doubt.
Saying that Giannis cannot make it, that's ridiculous.
What's absurd about it is, even if we talking, forget the overall game, just at his position. Charles Oakley, you would have starting power forward for the Knicks. You're not Giannis. We watched Houston win a championship with Otis Thorpe as the starting power forward. AC Green, what are we talking about here? Wasn't but 2 good power forwards in the 90s. Barkley and Malone. The rest of y'all was some bums. Man, they got to stop this stupid stuff. Charles Oakley said this. Charles Oakley.
Yeah, I'll send it to you after the show. There's a clip of it.
I'm not shocked. It's not that I don't believe you. I believe he's ridiculous. JB hurt.
Hey.
I mean, Charles Oakley was a tough guy and a hard worker, but he wasn't tremendously talented, and I don't think that's even up for debate.
Wasn't.
I can go
old like that 94 finals, OT banged it out, but that's really it. Like you said, Charles Barkley and Karl Malone, and then everybody else.
I can do mine real quick.
Go ahead, Dom.
My sports moron is LeBron James. In the waning seconds of that game, rather than going to the hole, he passed it to whoever who threw up an air ball 3. If you want to be a GOAT, go to the hole, LeBron. Go ahead, Jay.
Don't do that. They double teamed him and got the ball out of his hands. Don't do that.
Okay, then go to the hole and get fouled and miss your free throws. No wonder he passed.
Go ahead, Ray. I'll go after you.
My sports moron of the week. Morons with an S. James, you're gonna love this. Every single fan and every single sports writer who said that Philly messed up by trading for Harden, all of you are morons. Every single one of you. He pulled the okie doke on y'all again. I don't know if he wear fat suits. I don't know what he do. Every time he go to a new team, the first game he come out, he's skinny again. Like Ben Simmons in his career in Philadelphia made 5 threes. Harden did that in the first game, 27, 12, and 8. And him and Embiid look like they go again. Tobias Harris now in his natural role is the third. Watch out, Philly. People was really talking like, man, we gave up too much. It was Seth Curry. What?
Tobias Harris might be one of the. He's a top 3 third fiddle in the NBA.
Probably a little lower than that. A lot of teams now have big threes, right? But he's up there. You're not going to get 20 points per game on 50% shooting.
When he was a Piston at the time, due to lack of other stars, he was our best player.
If you're asking me, Tyrese Maxey is the Sixers' third best player, not Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, even if you look at that game,
Then that is a hell of a big four.
Joel Embiid, he scored 34 points. James had 27 points. He had 12 assists, 8 rebounds, almost had a triple-double. And Tyrese had 28 points too. So I really think what people are missing about this James Harden move is not just he's going to provide so much more than Ben Simmons could as a scorer, but even as a playmaker, Ben Simmons is a good playmaker, but I will go as far to say James Harden provides more as a playmaker too. I mean, even if you look at that game, getting 12 assists, he was making some great passes, getting guys open shots. So
I love James Harden double team at the perimeter that Ben Harden never will. Simmons never will.
Like, people really are forgetting that there's only about 6 guys in the history of this game who have scoring titles and assist titles: LeBron, Westbrook, Big O, Nate Archibald, Jerry West, and then it's James Harden. Like, he got multiple scoring titles.
James Harden we're talking about.
Like, come on, like this is James Harden. Like, come on.
And to your point, and
no
also
D.
speaking of Giannis, y'all remember that time when he made a little quip that James Harden didn't pass the ball? It was just a few seasons ago that James Harden led the league in assists. Yes, that James Harden that don't pass the ball. That's on the 6.
It's just a false narrative about him.
Yeah, that's like saying, Russell Westbrook might be a ball hog, but he's got an assists title.
Yeah, because people love to hate him. And I still say to this day, and everyone's got their favorites, but the 3 that can absolutely run an offense: LeBron, CP3, what up, cool, and James Harden.
What up, cool?
What up, cool?
Shout
out to Cool McCain and the playmakers.
Shout out play callers, baby.
Play callers.
Shout out Demon Dinkins. Any other sports morons?
I'm good.
Oh, Jay didn't have one?
I never would have. Well, y'all kind of stole it with the James Harden joint.
Tyler, I was talking to him earlier. I'm just gonna give him a shout out real quick because he wanted me to tell his sports moron. His sports moron was Mr. Greg Jennings. He was on TV. He's an analyst for Fox Sports or somebody now. He was like talking about Aaron Rodgers. There's a report about Aaron Rodgers saying like he wants the bag. He wants like $50 million a year or something. Honestly, a lot of people said that report was an anonymous report, and usually when it's anonymous, you don't really know if it's true or not. And with Aaron Rodgers, I feel like he is probably satisfied with what he's done and the amount of money that he's made, on top of making a lot of money with State Farm. I don't really think like he's.
If he goes looking for the bag, that's dumb.
I mean, he's not. He's probably not going to take pennies on the dollar to play somewhere, but I don't think he's like, oh man, you guys need to give me this amount of money or I'm leaving.
If he really wants rings
at this point in his career, he's going to leave if he wants to leave, and that's that. So Greg Jennings, he's a guy that Aaron Rodgers made as a player. Like, this guy was a nobody after he left the Packers. He had a couple 1,000-yard seasons for Minnesota, Bay, but goes to Minnesota, 800 yards, 700 yards, went to the Dolphins, had like 300 yards. When you talk about the great players in history, great receivers, when does Greg Jennings' name ever come up? When you talk about those Packers teams, it's not about Greg Jennings, it's about Jordy
That's
Nelson.
Why I want to see Devontae Adams somewhere other than in Green Bay. I'm not saying he's not great because he is. I think he might be the best ever.
Shout out to Tyler. Greg Jennings is his sports moron.
Hey, James.
What's up?
You see that comment made at 7:55 by Joe H? You see that?
Let me see that.
7:55. That one right there. You know that thing you was just saying about Greg Jennings was never good except for when he's with Aaron Rodgers? It's another quarterback that a bunch of receivers look real good when they play with him and nowhere else.
The 2 best receiving seasons ever.
Guy by the name of Golden Tate wasn't very good in Seattle. Ain't been good since he's been in New York.
The Golden Tate of the Matt Stafford effect.
Marvin Jones, Jacksonville, ain't been that good. Certain guy was an okay receiver. Now he's with Stafford, looks like the best receiver in the league. Just a few things. I mean, when you say,
hang on. Come on. Kenny Galladay's sweet with the Giants, isn't he? Isn't he, JB?
Man, listen. Stafford made a lot of receivers some money. We'll just leave it at that.
Cooper Kupp doesn't have that season without Matt Stafford. I'm sorry, he doesn't.
No.
He doesn't.
On top of what he did with Megatron. So,
two of the greatest receiving seasons we've seen in our lifetime. Both had one quarterback under center.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a coincidence, right, JB?
Hey, Once it's an accident, twice.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a couple offensive linemen that had more touchdowns than Kenny Galladay this year.
One of them's name is Taylor Tricker's one of them.
I'm gonna go there, even though I just did. But all right, we're gonna shut down the show now. Though we had a great show tonight. Ray, appreciate you filling in for Tyler. Do you have any shout outs anywhere, any other shows people can find you and where they can follow you and all that kind of stuff?
Sports Reporter Out Pay. Y'all see it on the hat, SRWOP. You can catch me on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can catch me every Monday and Wednesday, 10 o'clock, Facebook Live, YouTube. We one big family. The Sideline Sports doing it big. You can catch us on Roku TV, DBNA TV. We out here, man. Sideline Sports.
Shout out Sideline Sports. Shout out the Conventional Kings fam. Shout out Tyler Ingham. Shout out Clip Bet. Shout out Mike Boo. Shout out Mafi Kafu. Shout out to the NBA Carousel on Mondays. Shout out to the Sip Off hosted by Megan Price as well. And shout out to the Four Horsemen. See you guys next time. Stay sucker free. See ya.